Every single role has to have KPIs. Write the scorecards. Make it digital, make it non-digital. I don't care. Okay. Define great in the numbers. What is great? What is the benchmark? What is best case, worst case, upside? What does that look like? Okay. And you could okay, let's just go through it for the front desk. Best case for the month, I want you to get 10 reviews. Hey, what's up, everybody? Cam Hemphill here, your host for the Medical Millionaire podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. My goal is to help every single practice owner thrive, grow, scale, make money. I want to see you guys make profits. And ultimately, I'd love to see some of you sell your asset that you create and generate generational wealth. Why not? Right? So if you're going to trade time for dollars, you might as well make it worth it. And I'm coming to you today to really talk about leadership. I happen to just be at the FEST conference that Terry Ross and her team puts on last weekend. And Dr. Ronaldo Saltz, Isaac, they have an incredible team. It was in Fort Lauderdale at a very cool venue. But, it's a wonderful event if you haven't been. It's all business, no BS. It's really business first, clinical second. It's all of the providers and tech leaders inside the environment of aesthetics to help you scale and grow. There's CPAs there, there's finance people there, there's all sorts of individuals there to talk about the business side of aesthetics. And as you know, if you've been a listener or tune into my podcast historically, I talk about entrepreneurship. I want you guys to learn finance, mindset, fitness even. I want you to learn how to look at a P&L, how to look at a balance sheet, how to know what to deploy when it comes to marketing. How do you know what to spend on marketing? How do you track conversion rates? How do you plug this into a CRM, to an EMR, to booking, to like all the stuff that you guys have going on? There is a whole world outside of the clinical aspect that you must know. You must know. And in fact, I truly think that there's an argument there to say that somebody with a business acumen could actually beat somebody that has a more artistic acumen in this field. Now, that could be massively controversial, right? And I don't want to go down that path. But what I'm saying is the business is just as important or even more important than the clinical aspect. Obviously, you have no patients. You can't conduct your craft, your expertise if you don't have the clinical background. Totally respect that for you guys that have tuned in for many, many years. You obviously know that I admire what you do. However, I still see a tremendous amount of need for learning business, how to run your practice like a business the right way. And my takeaway from that conference was eye-opening. Once again, like I love to go to conferences because it pulls you out of your comfort zone. You network, you meet with people, you see new tech involved in the industry, some private equity groups that are coming in. And, it's just a great group of people. And I really enjoy being around everybody. So what I want to talk about today is leadership and why your team potentially isn't the problem. And perhaps it's your leadership. So if your MedSpa has high turnover, has missed revenue goals, and inconsistently underperforming, perhaps your team isn't the problem. And you could look at yourself and say, maybe I'm the problem. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly why that could be the case. And here's why it matters, right? Is when you zoom out and you look at your practice, owners can blame the front desk. They can say, you know what, the front desk is poor. They show up late. They're not getting to leads quickly. They don't understand the systems. They're not good on the phone. They don't meet people well. They're cranky. Like you can blame the front desk. And I look at the front desk as one of the most important roles in the practice. That is where your patients connect with the physical human of the practice first. If they make a phone call, send a text, if they come in, that's the person. So if you're spending a ton of money on marketing, on branding, you have an expensive facility, you're paying your providers a lot, you're paying yourself a lot, and you are relying on that front desk to take all the inbound volume and it's not the right person, it's a serious problem. So if you have somebody at the front desk that is not performing, why are you holding on to them? I think we look at the front desk as a role that is really looked at with like less talent, right? They're not as good as us. They're just a front desk person. They're just a receptionist. They're young, whatever it is, right? And that is the issue. That's the underlying core issue is we don't give them the respect first that they deserve because you're looking at it through the lens of a title versus the lens of they actually are your number one salesperson. They are your revenue generator. If you're spending money on marketing and leads are coming in and they're not calling them, or they're calling them late, maybe a day goes by, they're not, being fast to the lead. I've said this time and time again, like you need to be responding to your leads in under 2 minutes with a phone call, not just have AI send a text and send an email. You need to be making those phone calls. So if they're not doing that and they're not converting and you don't have KPIs and metrics and performance based compensation around your front desk, this is your issue. You hired them, you put them there, you didn't train them, you hired the wrong person, and they're very expensive to hold on to, right? So if this is you, and you're in this situation to where you're not bullish, confident on the front desk, ask yourself the honest question. Did you hire them correctly? Did you hire incorrectly? Did you hire the wrong person and hoping they would come around? Or are you still hoping that they're going to come around and be the right individual for the practice? I don't know what you're hoping for. If they're not the right person, you need to get rid of them. And then you get yourself in this position. Well, if I get rid of them, then no one's going to handle the stuff coming in. Look, no one's probably handling it now, right? Go talk to a practice that has an incredible front desk staff. Let's call it patient coordination. Let's give them titles that elevate actually who they are and what they do, right? And truly give them that title that they deserve so they feel more than just the front desk person. Okay. Go ask practices that actually have nailed that and talk to them. How did you nail it? How did you pull it off? Was it the personality of the individual? And I can tell you right now, they're going to say, well, it's performance based compensation, right? We pay them a low salary, right? We don't want them to survive and thrive on their salary. We want that to basically cover or just undercover their monthly expenses. I want them to be in a spot. I use this word sometimes called squeeze. I want the salary to actually squeeze them. Okay. And it's important because I want them to be compensated based on performance. They should be compensated on review count. They should be compensated on bookings. They should be compensated on rebookings. They should be compensated on retail product sales. They should be compensated on social media shares, right? I would like to see their compensation be more than 50% on the performance side than the salary side. And if that formula is broken, if that's not how you have your practice set up, then you're already losing. Okay. If they're not motivated and you're just giving them a fat salary or fat hourly and they're just happy with what they have, what's the burning desire for them to convert every booking that comes in the door? Right. Like, what is the desire? I would encourage you as you go into 2026 to take a look at your comp plans with your front desk and reframe them. Make sure you have the right people in the right seats. Extremely important, right? So have a look at that. The other thing I would say is providers. Do you have the right providers? Are they contributing to the goal of the practice? Are they looking out for themselves? Are they contributing to the underlying purpose of the brand? Have you looked at their production? Again, this is going to come back to compensation plans. Do you have the right comp plan in place for them? Are you paying them commission, salary, hourly? Maybe it's a hybrid approach. But what I'm getting at is, are you paying them on performance? Do you know how much they bring in per hour per provider? What is their utilization rate? What are they selling? What is their gross margin of products that they're actually selling? And is the comp plan make sense for that? Right? I want to see compensation, anywhere from 18 to 22% of the practice. And if your providers are north of that, there's a problem. There needs to be an adjustment. If they're south of that, there needs to be more bonus structure in place to keep them motivated. Everybody that's a provider, that's a revenue generator. Okay. So externally to the patient, this is a provider. Okay. Only to you and the provider, these are revenue generators. That's what they are. Their job is to sell time. Their job is to sell treatments. Their time is to deliver outcomes. That's it. That's it. And so again, I would have you look at your compensation models with your providers and make sure those are baked out correctly. The other thing is, are they the right culture fit? Maybe you have a high income producing provider, but at the same time, they're not a good fit for the practice. They don't get along with the other providers. Maybe they steal patients, right? Maybe they're just not the right fit. And what you're doing there is you're kind of creating this atmosphere that's toxic for the other providers. And so I would encourage you to have a look at that. And in fact, I had a practice recently that I'm working with, and we had a high income producing provider that we had to make the decision to let go. And ever since we let go of that provider, look, it was hard. It wasn't easy. This individual was bringing in well over $60,000 a month in revenue, seemed pretty committed. But at the same time, there were some things that were taking place that were just not aligned with the value proposition of the practice, with the other providers. And so we had some toxic issues with inside the practice. Well, that provider was actually let go. And what happened was revenue actually went up and culture immediately aligned. And so if you have that situation going on, I would strongly recommend you look at that and make the decision for the best use case of the other providers and the best use case of the business. I want you to think long term, not quick, be around forever, think like a winner, and really look past the lens of anybody that's going to really impact the practice in a negative way. Okay. The other thing I want you to look at is scorecard metrics, right? And this is going to come down to meeting with your providers. Do you meet with your providers one on one? Do you know what their goals are? Do you know what their personality is? Does money motivate them? Does patient outcomes motivate them? What motivates them? What are they looking for? Where are they here? Have you sat down with them and went over their metrics for last month? Do you know what their metrics even are? Most practices don't, right? And so I'd encourage you to go into your systems and extract the data and say, okay, if you're not having one-on-ones, I would strongly encourage you to do so. Like strongly encourage you to have one-on-ones with your team members. You need to have that, especially your revenue generators. Have one-on-ones with them. Find out exactly how much they're contributing to their practice. You need to know this stuff. They need to know this stuff. Okay. How much money are they bringing in per hour? What is their average ticket? What is their average rebooking rate? Right. All of this stuff is factored in to know exactly where they are, how we can grow together, and what the goals look like for next year. So, takeaways for you there: bake out one on ones, make them a must. They should be the same day, same time, every single month. These are different than your monthly huddles, your team meetings. This is one-on-one time. It should be no more than 20 minutes. It should be KPI driven. Here's the metrics. What's the goal? Where do you want to go? Here's what we did last month. Here's where you know what I mean? It's all numbers driven based upon a scorecard. And the scorecard should be baked out in a way of, again, revenue per hour, average patient spend per ticket per visit, and then also things like what are we selling the most of and what are we not selling. Okay. And really open up the lens, because you can have providers that really get stuck in a habit of getting comfortable selling injectables. And there's ways that you can bundle packages where you can bundle lasers with the injectables. Maybe you're now offering wellness. You can bundle that in. Maybe they're not selling gift cards, or they're not rebooking very well. They're not delivering a treatment plan or patient outcome. These are the conversations that you need to be having. The other component is I would strongly encourage you to have role playing sessions, true sales training, right? Like true sales training with individuals within your practice that are the revenue generators. Because what happens is a patient comes in, they go and do the consultation. That room is locked, closed. It's just them. What's happening within that environment? Are they asking the right questions? Are they getting to the true emotional impact of why that patient is there? They're there for an outcome. They're there for an emotional connection within themselves, with really transformation and building confidence within who they are. And it's up to you to make sure to train them and ask the right questions. If you're not role playing, we have no idea what's taking place. And it can be uncomfortable, but that's the fun part. Have fun with it. Make it uncomfortable, right? We have to get uncomfortable in order to actually grow and elevate as individuals. And so I would encourage you to also have a monthly role playing and do it in front of everybody, right? It'll get to the point to where it becomes comfortable, and everybody will be excited to do role playing, because it's really a fun activity and puts people on their toes. And really it's just a way to elevate and grow within one another. You'll understand how to overcome objections. You'll understand how to ask deeply rooted questions when it comes to why they're really there and how whatever their issue is makes them feel. And what you'll find out is when you go through these activities, you'll uncover that most individuals are there for a life change, or there's some sort of emotional issue that's taken place, and they're willing to invest in seeing that outcome and seeing that transformation. They're truly not there to get a poke here and a poke there and see somewhat of a transformation, right? And really, I think it's like it's your core responsibility to deliver that result. But if you're not asking the right questions, it's really hard to deliver the result and outcome and treatment plan if you don't really know why they're there. And it's just conversation driven. So role playing is going to be extremely, extremely important. And then the last would be, while we're on the topic of meetings, would be have this monthly huddle. I see time and time again, practices are not even meeting. We're too busy to meet. I don't know how you can run a team without meeting. You have to meet as a team. You have to know where you're going. Either have a daily huddle or have a monthly meeting and go over exactly where the practice is. What happened last month? Where are we going this month? What are we planning? What are we marketing? What are we highlighting? What packages are we selling? And it should be from like the staff should be how many reviews did we get last month? How many leads did we convert last month? What is the average cost per patient last month? What is the lifetime value per patient last month? And as you go into the actual other aspects of the meeting, it's planning for the future. What are the goals for this month, right? What are we actually looking to do? If you don't conduct these things, then that's where leadership actually fails. You can't just walk in and think you're the leader because you're the owner. You have to act like the leader. You have to train your team. You have to be impactful. You have to show them the numbers, show them the data, and show them where to go, right? Your practice has a goal, but then each provider, each person has their own individualized goal that's going to help achieve that actual goal for the practice. And so, guys, I see some very well respected practices that are not doing this. They're not doing these basic things. And it's just because you're busy. You don't have time. Maybe you don't see the value in it. And I think, it's imperative to have these conversations with your team, set these cadences up, and take the time to work on the business versus in the business every single time. So that's super important. I want you guys to get super deep into your KPI tracking, right? And you guys are probably just like so bored of hearing KPIs, key performance indicators. Oh my gosh, are you guys just going to keep talking about this? A business should become mathematics at some point, right? It's like, how many patients do we need to bring in this month? What do they need to spend? And what are the rebooking targets? What do the providers need to make? What does the inventory levels look like? It becomes math. And once you can display that on some sort of a reporting mechanism, a scorecard, a dashboard, a health board, whatever that is, it's pretty easy to look at the practice and say, are we healthy? Are we getting sick? Are we not healthy? Are we going down? Are we, it becomes math. And so, some examples when it comes to the front desk, right? I can kind of go back there is what's the answer rate? What's the booking rate? Are we getting to these leads fast enough? Okay. And are we converting them? What is our rebooking rate? Are we asking for reviews? Do we have a process in that? Are we asking for social media shares? Do we have a process in that? Are we going through our retail products, our skin regimen? Do we have a process for that? If none of this stuff is there and you don't have performance-based compensation baked into your front desk, then obviously they're going to fail. You're going to be pissed off, and we're not going to see the benefits of what this could be, right? And same thing goes for the providers, right? If they have no idea what their revenue is per hour or their rebooking goals, or their retail attach rate to every single booking, that's a problem. They need to know what there is. Like, think about it in the sense of a sport. Okay, let's just take basketball for an example. I think this, every person on the team, we know what their stats are, right? How many points do they score per game? What's their rebounds? What's their assists? How many times do they make a foul? Those types of high level metrics. Like, then you can look at every single player, line them up and say, okay, these guys are obviously the best or the biggest performers. These guys need some help, right? They're obviously not doing as well for the actual team. That's why it's important, right? So then you can make the educated decisions on who you want to actually carry that ball for you. Okay. So let's get into some of the actual core truths of, if you don't train, you hope, right? You're hoping that things will turn around. And I think that that's a very poor way to think and rely on. If we're just going to rely on hope versus train and taking action, we have a pretty serious issue. So most med spas that I see, they don't onboard correctly. Providers, front desk, social media people, tech, marketers, CPAs, they don't onboard them correctly. There's no scripts. There's no role playing. There's no training. It's just like, hey, here's our system. The phone starts ringing, texting, and it's just this fly by night, crossing our fingers, hope they figure it out. Train them, train them, right? Onboard them, do role playing with them. Hire from within the industry if you have to, right? Hire somebody that actually has great communication skills from a sales job if you need to for front desk. I think that that is super important to hire for that role. Do you have sales experience? Yes, I do. Okay, great. I can train you. That'd be nice. I can train you on how to greet people when they come in. It's really hard to train somebody to be a great salesperson. And and that's what it is, right? When the phone rings, if we're spending marketing money on that lead and that phone rings, and I have somebody that's not qualified to take that call, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? I know that you want them to book that patient because in your mind, you're like, shoot, if I took that call, I would have booked them. If I was texting with that person, I would have booked them. We all know that. They need to be you. And what you're saying to yourself time and time again is, I don't have time to train them. I don't have time. Well, then why did you hire them? Right? Don't hire them if you don't have time to train them. Like, you take the job, you know? And so that's what I see time and time again is we hire someone, we finally take the leap, and then it's just like, I hope this works out. And whose fault it is it's yours. It's leadership's fault, And I'd reframe this in your mind as next time you go to hire somebody, training them it's not an event that takes place. I trained them last week. Okay. So what, you're telling me they know how to run the practice because you trained them last week? No. How long have you been at the practice? 3, 4, 5, 6 years? And you're telling me you trained the front desk last week on everything to do? No. This is ongoing. This is a process. This is a system. We meet, we train, we review. We meet, we train, we review. That's what teams do, right? Like, going back to the basketball analogy, if I didn't play basketball and you hired me to be on your team and you're like, oh, I trained him to play basketball last week, he can shoot. Are you going to put me in the game? I hope not. Right? Like, but this is what we're doing. This is the crazy thing. When you really look at it like that, you're like, no, you don't know what you're doing. I need to train you. And, don't expect them to be trained with perfection within a week. Continually train them, train them, train them, practice, practice, and have fun with it. Right? Have fun with it. And I'm telling you, if you actually put in that work versus the hope work, I trained him last week. I hope it works out. I don't understand that. You trained them last week. What do you mean? We train daily. We train weekly. We review numbers. Are we getting better? We have a scorecard. How were you last month versus this month? Oh, last month you got 10 reviews. This month you got 20. Okay. Yeah. You're learning something. Last month you booked 100 patients. This month you booked 200. Okay. Or let's look at it like this. Last month you booked 7 patients. This month you booked 6 patients. Right? And then ask yourself, are you continuously role playing? Are you continuously training them? Are you giving them the education? Are you having them read training books? Are you having them listen into podcasts? Are you having them understand the industry, the clinical side, the sales side, the tech side? This isn't just I go to work and I do my job. This is you have to know how to be a part of the team, right? And so continuously being a leader is inspiring your team. Being a leader is giving them the ability to win, giving them the tools to win, giving them the ability to achieve. And they look at you and they say, hey, I'm here. I joined the team because I like you. I like the brand. I like what you're doing here. I believe in everything that you're doing. Okay, great. I'm going to give you the playbook on how to be successful. And if you do that and you train your people correctly, you will have a thriving practice. You will absolutely have a thriving practice and things are going to be wonderful. And you're going to have less retention. Like, people that are having success within the practice, they want to stay. They're having fun. They feel good about themselves when they do book a patient, when they do rebook a patient, when they do get a review because they asked. They feel good about it. They feel like they're giving to the actual practice. They're giving to themselves, right? And so this is the important thing that I want you guys to truly take away from this episode, right? You need to avoid the hard conversations, right? Like, underperformance, people that underperform and you just tolerate it for too long, it just creates this toxic environment. It creates resentment, right? It's just better just to cut the tie. Bad leaders, they delay decisions. Toxic high performers, and it's really unfortunate. So the reality is A players, they crave clarity, and B players, they exploit ambiguity. And so that's what it comes down to is the people that want to win, they want to know why, what's the purpose, what's the intent, what's the clarity, and the people that really don't care is because they just have no direction, right? So again, weekly huddles, monthly scorecards, monthly one-on-one, even, quarterly priorities. What is the sprint this quarter, right? This builds consistency. This builds trust. This builds a business. This builds cadence. This builds community within the company. This builds a long lasting, successful medical aesthetics practice. Okay. So I don't know what you're doing between now and the end of the year or what your plan is for Q1 2026, but in the next 30 days, write your scorecards for every single role. Every single role has to have KPIs. Write the scorecards. Make it digital, make it non-digital. I don't care. Okay. Define great in the numbers. What is great? What is the benchmark? What is best case, worst case, upside? What does that look like? Okay. And you could okay, let's just go through it for the front desk. Best case for the month, I want you to get 10 reviews. Worst case, you cannot get lower than 5. Okay. Like that's baseline. What about social media shares? What about retail sales? Okay. What about providers? Your average ticket is $455. I want to see it $555. What do we have to do there? The baseline is $600. Let's just say $600 per ticket. Let's just say that's what it is. If you're averaging 400, we have a problem. There's something broken within the consultation process. You're not asking the right questions. I could just tell you right now because everybody else is at 700, baseline 6, you're at 4. I want you to be at 6. You want to be at 6. Shit, your patient wants you to be at 6, right? So that's what I'm getting at is define great within the numbers, train weekly, train weekly, meet with each other, have conversations, role play. And I want you to promote based on performance, not based on Sally's been here for 3 years, Susan's been here for 4. I think I should get a raise every single year. Why? Because you've been here a long time. You've been here a long time, like creating dead weight. So it should all be based off of performance and a way to say, you know what? You do deserve a raise. Last year, this is how much revenue you brought in. This year, here's how much revenue you brought in. You're doing a great job. You're learning. You're expanding your profile, right? And that's the important thing is then it becomes, it's not an emotional decision. It's a mathematical decision. And here's a big one. Remove anyone who refuses accountability. If people don't want to have accountability within themselves and in the practice, remove them, right? You don't get to build $1 million business with $1 million of excuses. Okay. I'll say that again. You don't get to build $1 million business with $1 million excuse, period. Okay. So that's it, guys. I hope you found this particular episode valuable. Please share it. That's my biggest ask. I do this stuff at the kindness of my heart. Hope you guys tune in, learn, and take action. Take action, share it, rate it. That's my biggest thing. I'll leave it at that. Until next time, happy injecting.